G'day and welcome to the configuration and update part of the Shark Byte setup series. So here is where you'll find the user manual and your update firmware files, zip files. I'm going to be doing this one and this one because I don't have this one. But yeah, to find this page, you'll want to go to Google and Shark Byte update are the keywords you want to put in. Hit enter and go forth. What you want to do from here is download the user manual and download the firmwares that you want. And there we go, we've got them. So we'll have a quick look in the user manual at the configuration and then we'll get around to doing the firmware. So page 2, we've got a nice little index and we'll have a look through all of this. And the firmware update information is down here on page 15. So let's hop down and go through. So as you can see here, they've got a quite a nice laid out diagram there. I don't have one of these, so I can't tell you much in my practical experience. So yeah, but as you can see, there's a nice bit of information there. This is rather important and applies to both units. You're going to want to connect them to the battery, and there needs to be a capacitor in that line. Yeah, it recommends 10 millimeters. I don't have thermal clearance on mine, that's for sure. The unit does seem to get quite warm as well. Anyway, here we are on the correct unit. This unit seems to get quite warm, and I've heard the other one does as well. So here we are, we've got our cable, this is what comes in the box, and a nice schematic of how it goes together. And as you can see, the TX communicates to the RX on the video transmitter, and the TX on the transmitter communicates to the RX on the flight controller. So it's similar to setting up a GPS, different from setting up a control receiver, if I get that correct. Crossfire. Anyway, here we are, and you can see there's a nice little quick tie drawn in this, and it's holding down the antenna there. So that is the wiring diagram, and here are the specs, and also this is how the keypad controller plugs into the respective boards. So you can configure this by the RC controller, but you do need the OSD to do this, unless you're going to memorize all of it. So we won't really go through that. I don't do that kind of thing myself. I'm not big on that. I just prefer the interface of a computer. So the OSD setup is as follows, and unfortunately these are not very high res, so I will show you a capture from setting mine up. Alright, here we are in the Betaflight configurator, and I've got the latest one going here, 10.7.0, and I recommend that you do download and upgrade to the latest one, unless you're trying to use outdated flight controllers. So here we are, and what you're going to want to do is connect after plugging in your drone, of course, and it appears my drone thinks it's upside down. I think I'm going to have to calibrate my accelerometer again. I have been getting some errors when I've been plugging this in, but this is by far the most error I've seen. Anyway, it doesn't matter at the moment. What you want to do is go to your ports tab in the configurator and select the corresponding UART to the one you've plugged into or wired the transmitter into, and turn on the MSP and set the baud rate to 115200. And that is basically it. That'll allow the transmitter to communicate with the flight controller. And then you can set up your OSD. Boop. So here I am, and you can see I've got a few things set up here. One thing we do want to cover is RSSI, and as you can see, I have the RSSI, the link quality is still up from my analog setup. I'm running Crossfire, and I haven't actually set up anything on that, but we'll get to that in a moment. So go through, select what you want. The latest update for the Shark Byte system does have more options here. You can select a whole bunch of stuff, and that's going to continue to grow, as well as apparently it has support for 1080p displays now, for outputting 1080p if your display can handle it, which is pretty cool, though most displays can't handle it at the moment. Anyway, so getting back round to the RSSI. Okay, so here we are on the bench. Hold up, wait a minute. FatShark put out some firmware, didn't it? Yep, that's right. This video was finished and rendered and ready to be published. And FatShark released a new firmware update, and it has some important changes that dramatically affect this video, but also will dramatically affect ease of life for Crossfire users. So, drum roll please. There's now Canvas OSD. That's really cool. And the quality of life update for Crossfire users is that you don't have to change your RSSI setup. You can still use LQ in the OSD and just keep going with your current setup. So I should see some changes there, which is good. Because I was running an 8-channel setup on this system and not a 12-channel, and so it makes it a little bit more complicated, at least I found, to get RSSI to work with the way that they were doing it. But there are a few important things you're going to need to do. Firstly, you're going to need to get the new manual, and we'll get to that in a minute, and you're going to have to do a firmware update to get the access to these, and then to use the Canvas OSD, you're going to have to set that up in Betaflight. So we will get to that now, and I'm going to start with the manual. So you're going to want to start by getting the new version of the manual, which has the instructions for the Canvas OSD. So you can see it's changed over from, what was it, 12/12/2021 to 08/04/2021 or something like that. Yeah, that seems right. And there is also a new firmware, not to be confused with the currently in use. I don't think this is available yet, or it'll be coming out soon. But this is the one you want if you've got the original small PCB. And of course you want the receiver one as well. And if you've got the double stack. Anyway, once you've gotten the new copy of the user manual, I'm not sure if this was in the last one, but if you click on the bit, Google Chrome or whatever, it will take you down to it. It seems to be linked. So here it is. So currently only Betaflight supports map MSP DisplayPort. Do not attempt to perform this CLA update on iNav. And I think some code was submitted, but we'll see what comes of that in the future. Make sure the firmware version is the latest version of Betaflight. So I might have to update the firmware on my FC as well. Keep that in mind. If you are going to try to use this, you may well have to update to 4.2.8. Or maybe even wait a while, 4.3.0, and get a better experience apparently. So you are to connect as you are connected now. So that bit you don't have to change. In the ports interface, turn on MSP function. Okay, so that will already be done. This should already be done if you've got the FatShark board running. And then you want to go into the CLI and make these changes here. Set OSD DisplayPort device to MSP and set DisplayPort MSP serial to 2. Then you want to save and exit. So let's hop into Betaflight and get this done. I think in the meantime though, I'm probably going to update my FC firmware and update the firmware on my goggles, and that's as per normal. So I'll just get straight to the Betaflight section now. Okay, so here we are in Betaflight, and to set this up, of course, you will have to have done the firmware update. Now, I do cover the firmware update later in this video, and I apologize for having this mixed the wrong way around. It's just because of the fact the video was made, and I do not have the time to completely remake the video, so I've just got to stick in the update section and hope that you will forgive me. Yeah. So, what you want to do is connect to your quad, assuming you have all the latest firmwares, including the latest firmware on your FC and on your Shark Byte transmitter and receiver. Go to your CLI. The easiest way to do this is going to be to just copy these over. Copy, paste. Then you want to come back and copy this. But remember, the number in this place should be the serial port number -1. As you can see here, I'm on UART 5. So I go to the CLI and copy that in and put 4 in there, hit enter, save. And go to your OSD and set up what you want. So I've been through here and I have set up what I want already. If you're installing a fresh system, Shark Byte system into a quad, then you'll want to make sure that you have your MSP turned on for the UART in question that you have wired in. And you also will want to make sure that you have your OSD switched on as well. And then of course, you want to go in and make the changes to the CLI. And yeah, that's that. Anyway, let's continue on with the video. And again, sorry for having the choppy insert in here. Please forgive me. I, of course, don't make a habit of doing that kind of thing. But the update caught me. And what can I do but try to be at least as relevant as possible. Okay, so let's do that firmware update, shall we? So the information on the firmware update is on page 15 of the user manual. Right. Here it is, and we went through this before. So you'll have to go and download the applicable files, so the receiver and the double or the single stack, depending on what you have, or you get both. And then you're going to want to unzip the contents of the zip file to the root directory of an SD card. Insert the SD card into the RX module. Connect the cable with from the RX module to the TX module, as shown here. No need to power the transmitter, the TX. Power the receiver, the RX module, and wait for the success to be shown on the video display. Disconnect the cable, and yeah. So we're going to go through to this, and then we're going to do this as well. Let's chuck the first one on the SD card. So firmware. So we put in our SD card. There it is. Then we have the transmitter. So we want to copy it, extract here. So that's in there now. So let's go to the bench. Okay, here we are at the bench. Pardon the mess, I'm middle of another project or two. So here we got the headset, and I wanted to try to get this to plumb out to an HDMI display for you, but all I've really got to hand is the TV, and it's going to be a bit hard to do that and do this. Anyway, now we've got to get this cable and join that and the board under here and that. So what I'm going to do is have to take the top off this and remove one of these to get access to it. So I'm gonna get on with that, and we'll come back when it's all plugged in and ready to get fired up and updated. I know I said I was going to come back when I had this plugged in, but that length of cable is insufficient. Like, FatShark, this should be long enough to reach this distance here, right here. Whereas a a ruler, 1 second. So that is approximately 22 centimeters. That's pretty long, and you probably want to like twist it, but so you need longer. But it would make the quality of life, the firmware updates, a lot easier, because as you can see, this doesn't reach very far at all. You're gonna have to prop up your goggles on here to wire this in, and even then it's a stretch. So yeah, that'd be good. Longer cable, FatShark. Thank you. Okay, so here we are, ready to update the VTX. And I've got a battery here. I've just charged that one up. I was going to use my lithium ion, but it's totally discharged, so I've got this on here to monitor the voltage. As you can see, it's been nicely balanced there. It wasn't fully charged. It was like basically 99%. So I'm going to plug this in, and you do want to make sure you got a pretty charged battery, like 99%. Probably good enough, and we're going to monitor it here to yeah, see how we go. So basically, the instructions say you unzip the firmware onto the root directory of the SD card, you put in the SD card, you plug in the cable to each, the RX and the TX, and then you power it on. And it will say success on the screen when it's been successful, which is great because that's going to be easy to look at. Anyway, let's do it. Always check the polarity, right?
A few minutes later.
Alright, I'm just gonna have to check this. This will be fun. Firmware update successful. Repower the VRX now. Okay. Disconnect this cable. Ah, there we go. Okay. So that to the side, that is done. So now that that is out, we unpower this. And we take our SD card. Yank. And we go and put the other firmware on here. Okay, now let's do this one. So I've already gone and put the firmware on here, like I showed you for the TX, and you put it in the right hole. Connect the cable, or you won't be able to see what's going on. And I will put them up here, and we plug it in. And there's a little gauge telling me how it's going while it's doing this. So for the TX there was only one bin file, but for this there was a whole bunch. And on the screen now it has write shark underscore under dash underscore byte, and the little progress bar that's filling up with whiteness. Lovely, good whiteness. Right, done. Rebooting. Writing HD0 underscore VA. Excuse me. It's 16.1 on the battery.
Moments later.
This progress bar is going a lot slower.
More moments later.
So we'll skip to the end.
Eventually.
That took a while. Anyway, now it says firmware update successful. Repower VRX now. Okie dokie. Okay, same startup procedure as last time. I've got to go try it out. Anyway, that is the firmware update on the Shark Byte system. So I'm going to stick this drone back together and then we'll get back to the computer. So when you've got the goggles on and powered up, to access the settings on them, you use the three-way button on the right of them, as can be seen in the manual here. And this will be the default screen you get when you power it up. It'll be scanning every so often. And you can say rescan, and it'll rescan. So to access the settings, you just hold left for 3 seconds. It says let go on the manual, but just hold left until you get there. And once you're here, you can scroll through it by going left or right. You can change your HDMI resolution. Now the latest firmware, that comes through brilliantly. So that will actually auto flick back, so if you do stuff that up and it's not working with your goggles, it'll go back. That's a lot of artifacting. Alright, anyway. Oh, Mia, chill out. And then you can change your HDMI format to 16:9 or 4:3. And there's playback options, format your SD card, set auto record on or off, or reset. And then to exit this, you want to hold back, just tap back. Okay, so that takes you to the channel. So you probably want to exit this by going to scan and then going back to your default screen. And there you go, that is that. So yes, look, that is the end of this rather long video. Next up, we will be doing a review and a comparison, hopefully a comparison, as long as I can get something else flying. I'll be doing my thoughts on the system and a review on the system, some of the interesting quirks I found, or things I like, things I don't like, and I'll be touching on the comparison. So with that, I'm planning to do a 4K analog recording, a 4K recording on an analog setup like this here, and compare it to the results I get from the, it's a little unfair, from the FatShark system, but it's also going to be a comparison to the analog feed that I get off the 4K camera, because that's actually quite a good camera, and it's probably one of the better cameras around for and the analog setups. So that'll be an interesting comparison. I hope you've enjoyed this video and found it useful. There's a lot in it, and check the timestamps below. Of course, if you think that you've missed anything, and if I've missed anything, like I obviously did with the problem I encountered with my RSSI, I will be coming back to it, but please pull me up on anything, put it down in the comments below, and let me know so I can follow up. Thank you very much for watching. Have a great day out there. Please like and subscribe. Be well. Peace out.